Ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Hey guys, Stephanie Davenport. I'm a psychology instructor here at OTC. I teach both online and seated classes. So this presentation I actually got from a conference I went to in January. It's called the National Institute of the Teaching of Psychology. And basically it's a 3-day giant idea exchange. So what I'm going to present here is sort of my summation of it, and then I'm going to give you an example of how I've applied it to one of my classes this semester. If you want to download the documents that I'll hand to you, here's a link to a Google Doc or a Google Drive. Short link 7ZZC_YN. That'll take you directly to my Google Drive folder. You can download these to your own computer and modify them as you need. Because like I said, I've modified these for one of my classes, but you can take them and use them as your own. Thank you. You're welcome. All right. So we'll move kind of fast through these so we can really hammer down my handouts. So collaborative projects and assignments. Key goals for these, for my classes, are going to be not only to work together and problem solve in groups, but also talk to people who have different experiences, different backgrounds. I'm a psychology instructor, so we get a wide variety of people in my classes. Some ways that this has been applied, study groups is one way that I do collaborative assignments and projects. I teach a stats course, so that course is really heavy on the study groups. It's really intimidating for students. It's not a hard class, but it's intimidating for them, so they like the study group aspects. Team-based assignments and writing. I do a lot of team-based assignments where they work in groups. Another class that I teach is a research methods course, which is what I'll be handing out today. The main objective of the research course is to write a 10 to 15 page paper over the course of a semester, along with other writing assignments. So they do collaborate on those. And then others are just cooperative projects and research. Research methods, obviously they're going to be doing research in databases, out in PopPress, other sources that may or may not be scholarly, but hopefully we'll teach them how to use the difference between the two. So lots of different approaches for this to be applied to. Okay. So when we look at group work, like I said, I teach face-to-face and online. Okay, so face-to-face, when you have collaborative work, here's how every group project always goes. All right, there's always one person that does everything. One person shows up and then disappears for a while. One person acts like he's going to do stuff, but he doesn't. Literally every group project ever. So when one of my questions whenever I went to this conference was, how do we battle this? And one of the ways that these methods does this is really, really effective. And I've seen it already sort of bust this up quite a bit. And then, so that's face-to-face. The cons of collaborative work in an online class, illustrated by this cartoon, is it's hard to meet virtually, and then you always have that one person where you're like, what is happening right now? So some pros, some cons to both face-to-face and online collaborative work. And again, I've applied this in both a seated and online environment. This also takes care of a lot of the cons in collaborative work online. Pretty cool. Okay. So when we look at the 5 elements, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about 1 through 3 and a lot of time on 4. So social presence, leadership, purpose and clarity, scaffolding of skills and technologies. Does anybody else teach online? You guys all seated? Online? Okay, perfect. Okay. So social presence. As an instructor, your face-to-face students get to see you, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, however much. But you really need to beef that up because there's probably more stuff going on outside of class than what needs to be happening. So ongoing communication. I don't mean drive them crazy by posting an announcement every day, but just making sure that there's some kind of consistency to your communication, both seated and online. Online needs it, and it's seated appreciate it. Asynchronous communications, those are like video lectures that you make, or little instructor video messages that you make where you video them, pop them in your class. Not synchronized, not a specific meeting time, just kind of little messages you put out there. And Canvas, I'm in Canvas this semester, very effective for asynchronous videotape messages. They've got a built-in video camera thingy that's really cool. So you just click a little video camera and you can record your message, and it's all embedded right there, and it's awesome. Really, really simple. If you want to go the old way, you can make a YouTube video and embed it. But either way works. Synchronous group meetings are like what we're doing right now. So we're meeting at a specific time. Marcia is recording it. And it's really important for these to be recorded so that if somebody's gone, you can go back and watch it, or they can go back and watch it. So all three of these pretty important as far as just establishing some kind of presence. As students, you want students to have social presence too. I always do an intro for them, not only in my online class, but in my seated class as well, just to kind of get them used to using a discussion board and interacting in that manner. And same thing, you want synchronous meetings for your groups, students. They don't have to record theirs. I recommend they do, but they usually don't. And I put Zoom here because this is software that we have, not only as OTC faculty, but OTC students have it for free. Just use your OTC login to log into Zoom, and it's awesome. Okay? And then also just asynchronous workspace, discussion board, a group area in Canvas, something along those lines where they can do a file exchange. I had a group use Drive, Google Drive, this semester as their asynchronous group space, and it worked very well. Okay. Questions on that? Social presence? You're just kind of making sure students know you're there, students know who each other are, kind of the basics. Now we get a little bit more complicated with leadership. So with leadership, as instructors we have to provide structure, which is pretty obvious. Some kind of structure within the assignment, if it's going to be a semester-long project, if it's going to be a month-long project, if it's just for that day. Some kind of structure and timeline is needed. And instructors should model the leadership that they want students to demonstrate. And that gets tough, and it's going to be individualized to the class, depending on what class you're teaching. Within student groups, you're going to divide students into groups. What I did 5 students per group. Typically, I have 25 students in a class, so it works out to 5 groups. Sometimes I have a few more if they bump my cap up in my online class, but that's all right. I still try to stick 5 students about in each group. So each group is going to have a leader that we'll talk about how to select the leader in just a minute. So 1 leader per group, and then the instructor has to make sure to support that leader. And this is going to be typically your student that is like the overachiever. There's always a couple of those in your class, right? Super overachiever, type A, good leader. And so this is where you get to be kind of a mentorship for those high flyers, high flying students. Okay? So leadership is important, not only to have a designated leader that is a student, but also to model that leadership. Okay? Purpose and clarity for the assignment that you do is important. Transparency, you want to be transparent about how you are going to grade them. That will drive students crazy if you are not clear on how you're going to grade them. Okay? One of the handouts I have will cover a little bit of that. Alignment, you want to show how it aligns to the objectives of the course, or at least to the objectives of the university. How is this meaning something to you in your education? You want to demonstrate that. Organization, you want to have it organized in some meaningful way as far as your assignments go. With my methods class, which is what I'll be discussing next, we break the paper down into chunks, and we do 1 chunk every module, and at the end of the semester, we take all the revisions and just smush the paper together into one cohesive document. Okay? So the organization of that is, this is going to be your introduction. We do it first. Next, we do your literature review. We do that next. So we do methods, on and on and on until we get the entire paper done, revisions, smush it. So organization is really important for that. Clear instructions. Also, this is probably the toughest one. We had, during our PD days, we had our readability exercise. Did you guys do that in your departments? Readability exercises? We did that in our department. So Vivian sent out an email that we were supposed to make it at a 9th grade level. Is that right, Marcia? So all of our course descriptions, materials should be readable at a 9th grade level. Was kind of our goal, so that students can read and understand what class they're taking. And so for clear instructions, that's a good benchmark to aim for, is about a 9th, 10th grade level. Do you guys know how to check your reading level on your assignments? If you go into Microsoft Word, there's a setting, you go to File and Settings, there's a little checkbox that says Readability. And whenever you do a spell check, it'll check your readability score. It'll give you a grade level of 9, 10, 16, whatever your readability is. It's pretty cool. Okay. So the bulk of what we're going to talk about today is going to be the scaffolding of skills. So we're going to use the 3 elements we talked about before to scaffold skills as the students progress through whatever project you're working on. As I mentioned before, these are all available in my Google Drive folder. So series of steps, each one kind of building on the next one. So the first one I'll hand out is roles and responsibilities in a survey, which you can pass it, Misty, that students will take before they start their project. So for my research class, again, this is customized for my research class. You can feel free to download it, customize it for how you want to do it. First, we have my incoming questionnaire. So I just want to know, the students coming into research methods, what is their background? What are their plans? You know, are you going to be a clinician? Are you going to go on and get a PhD? Like, what are your plans? And then I ask about some of the things that we talked about in the previous elements. How do you rate your leadership skills? How do you rate your people skills? How do you rate your planning skills? So I ask them to rate themselves on all these skills. And then in the end, number 17, I say, hey, read through the 5 group roles. Okay, there's a leader, a planner, a facilitator, a recorder, and a quality control person in each group. Okay, 5 people to a group. And the role descriptions are on the last page, last 2 pages. Go back. So the leader, for example, directs team's activities to ensure all parts of the assignment are completed on time, encourages team dialogue, and I've given some examples of what the leader may say in a class. You know, hey, we're getting off topic. We have 5 more minutes. Let's get back on topic. Stuff like that. So usually what will happen is, on number 17, everybody kind of fits into their own role. So they'll pick what role they want, rank them out, and then you can assign roles within the groups after this. So once they have their roles assigned, again, you're assigning the leader to a group, filling that leadership element, and the others have their own duties as well. So that's step 1, is the incoming questionnaire. It's a little bit of work up front to get everybody in their roles and to understand what the roles are and what their duties are. But once they got it, it's smooth sailing from here out. So this is probably the hardest part of setting up the group itself. If you have somebody drop, or if you have some students drop, the duties of whatever position that person held has to be redistributed. That's what I did. You can either eliminate it completely, that's what somebody at the conference said they did, or just redistribute. It seemed easier to me to just redistribute it out. Okay. I did have one group implode this semester where there's only one person left out of the 5. So I've had to do a little bit of one-on-one mentorship with them as far as their project is going, but it's been okay. So you will have to kind of watch out for that, the group implosions. Okay, good. then step 2, once they get their groups formed, to avoid the slacking and the social loafing, you're going to have them make a charter, basically a contract with each other. And again, this is my methods class. Oh, social loafing, or slacking.
Oh, slacking.
Yes. So again, this is my research methods class, research investigation team charter. So I call the groups in my methods class research investigation teams, or RITs. So once they make their groups, everybody gets their roles and responsibilities. I move up to making them have a charter. This is their group charter. So what are consequences that are going to happen if somebody doesn't pull their weights? What's everybody's responsibilities? Again, just making sure everybody is 100% clear and organized on the group structure. And you'll note that on the second page, dealing with conflict, a 3-step plan. And I state I can only be involved in part C. So now we're teaching students problem-solving skills and how to deal with conflict within their groups, if there is conflict, on their own before immediately jumping to me and, oh, they're not doing their work. Well, did you do plan A of your charter? Did you do plan B of your charter? Are we on to plan C now? Because that's where I'm getting involved. So we're teaching them not only working in groups, how to problem solve on their own, okay? And then sanctions for failure to meet expectations. What are your sanctions going to be? If somebody is obviously loafing, obviously not doing their work, what's punishment going to be? Right? So psychology, all about rewards and punishments. Right? What's punishment going to be? What are you going to do to them if they don't pull their weight? Okay? So groups are making these up on their own. After they have agreed on it, they all sign it. Everybody gets a copy. I get a copy. So everybody's clear on what's going on. Okay, again, providing structure and organization to something that maybe not clear unless that's provided to them.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Just a question.
Yes.
This first thing, the questionnaire, do you do this before you assign their groups and you kind of assign groups based off of
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yes, that's an excellent question. It's not a random assignment. So
Okay.
I'll take groups and then basically I'll put all the leaders, parse them out,
Okay.
and then take all the planners, parse them out, so that way it's not total random assignment.
Okay, and then are you giving them a grade for these? Are you assigning points to these, or have you either way, or?
I did not
Okay.
assign points this semester, and everybody did them just fine.
Okay.
Seated and online.
Online did apply too? Okay.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we could probably do it for points,
Okay.
but I wouldn't make it worth a lot of points.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it wasn't for points, if they wouldn't do it, or?
No, I didn't have any problems.
Okay,
And
cool, that's good to
then,
know.
well, I say that, I had 2 people not do it, but then I just filled in the gaps with them.
Okay.
And I said, you didn't do this assignment, that's where you're getting put.
Okay, what if they don't do this? What if they don't do this assignment?
The charter, they will do.
They will do?
Yeah, it's the step 1 that I usually, that you might have problems with.
Okay,
Okay,
but
I
you
just-
had the experience with them actually doing this? Okay.
Yeah, and the student who didn't do it, they were online students, and they just forgot.
Okay, did you just kind of push back on them and say, try to really get them to do this?
Yeah, because once you have the leaders designated, the leaders will push
We'll push to get
the
this.
other 3
Okay.
steps, which takes the burden off of you.
Okay.
Which is awesome. But that's why the first step is always just a little bit more front work. What's your question over here? No? Okay.
What sort of punishments did they get out?
Oh, you know, things like 10% reduction in grade was one that I saw this semester. Kicking them off the team was another one I saw. That was a pretty harsh group. But yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. And I give examples of appropriate punishments. So, yeah,
And you let them kick somebody off the team, or, okay,
I do. And it has to be, everybody has to agree on it. It has to be a, nope, you're out.
okay.
Yeah. For that to happen. And I haven't had that happen, actually.
Cool.
Yeah, which has been pretty cool. So once you got the roles and duties, charter, then it's just a matter of getting them to work. So this is really, really early. again, one of the roles, responsibilities is to do this. So this is progress notes. So when they meet, again, going back to that social presence. There you go. When they meet, if they don't record it, which they won't record it, they will give you a summary of what happened. And they can meet asynchronously or synchronously. I didn't specify, but if you wanted to, you could definitely do that. So this is just a real simple progress summary. Who was there, who was not, what did you talk about, what did you decide for the future plan, okay? And then usually what I do is I would make whoever filled this out come meet with me and have a face-to-face discussion along with giving this to me, so I could get a little bit more in terms of just other than what's written. I had these due after every exam because it's a semester-long project. So it was 4 times this semester. They had to give me one of these. Meet with your group, decide what your next piece is going to be, what your next goal is going to be, and then give me a progress report. That way I can see somebody's slacking, if somebody's not following your charter. I've got some kind of documentation for it. Students have a documentation for it. I can see if there's conflict happening that I need to maybe interject on. I haven't had that problem either this semester, which has been lovely. So again, this is kind of just for me to make sure the groups are doing what they're supposed to be doing on task. Groups have met face-to-face, and they've also met via texting, is what I got one group this semester doing. They just text each other in a group conversation. Good enough for me. Just give me a progress summary. Okay? And again, that's up to you. If you want to limit the kind of interactions that they can have, totally okay. I didn't just because first semester using it, see what happens. But I don't have a problem with it. So once they're done with their project, what I did, everybody in the group gets the same grade based off what the group turns in. With one exception. I think I'm going to give you two. There you go, Misty. Right here. So one paper per group is what the final product will be. But now we've gotten up to step 4. Now we've got distribution of points based off peer review. Okay? And this is, students love this. We just wrapped up talking about how they were going to do this. They're going to do this next week in their class. They love the concept of it, both online and seated. So one group, one paper per group. The paper is worth 500 points. That's about 30% of their grade. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the peer distribution of credit, peer review, and basically make it a multiplier for their grade. Okay? So if the paper is worth 500 points, okay, let's say the group does awesome and they get all 100 points just for sake of clarity. So 500 points on the paper. Now each group member is going to assign a point value to each other group member, including themselves. So on your paper, you get 10 points per group member, 10 points per person. If there are 5 people in the group, right, it's 50 points that you get to assign to everybody in your group. Okay, so the group is the whole. So you've got person A, person B, person C, person D, person E. Okay? So everybody's going to grade everybody else, including themselves, and give them whatever score they deem out of 10 fair. Okay? So person A, they may give person B 10 points, 9 points, 8 points, 12 points. Right? And they got to grade themselves as well. So they give themselves 11. But always adding up to 50 points total. That's a 50, right? So 50 points total. Okay? Then person B does the same thing. So eventually you'll have grades filled out for everybody. Right? With me so far? Okay. So at the end, we take the average for person A, average for person B, on and on and on. Okay, so let's say the average for person A, they were super overachiever, they got an average of an 11. Okay, person B, they were okay, they got an average of a 10. Let's say person C was a slacker. They didn't really do much, didn't help much, just kind of there. Their average was like a 6 from their groups, okay? So I take this and I make this a multiplier. So 11 becomes 110%. Just add 0 and 1%. A 6 becomes a 60%. Right? 10 is 100%. Make sense? So I take this and multiply it by the group grade. And that's the individual person's grade. So person B got 500 points on the assignment. Person C, they only got 60% of these points. They pretty much got a D on the paper because they didn't help. Right? Person A got 110%. Not only did they get 500 points, they got some little bit extra credit too for doing so awesome. Okay? Make sense? Students love this method of distributing points. Love it. I mean, they're like, this is the best way to grade group work ever. Okay. Okay. They're all excited about it because it's so simple. 10 points per person, average it out, call it good. I did have one group this semester, they're a little ahead, that they just gave everybody 10s, which kind of works for me. Everybody gets 100% of the points you earn, but your paper better be good. You know? So yeah, really, really good. Same thing if there's only 4 people left, you just make it 40 points per person. The same concept applies, you make it a multiplier for their grade. Okay. Questions on that? And this, obviously in the context of this, is a progress, but the group grading, I actually applied that to a couple of other assignments that I had them do, just little itty bitty stuff, and it worked just as fine. So it doesn't have to be like big things, it could be little things as well. So that's kind of cool. Okay. Good. Questions so far? Any other questions so far? Okay. And then the last thing is technologies. So this element is pretty important. You can do a lot of things old school with paper, but here are 3 technologies that will make life a whole lot easier for this to be implemented. Canvas, obviously, we're switching to Canvas. Anybody in Canvas already, besides me? Okay, yeah. Canvas is really good at this. There's a group function in Canvas that's really, really good. Discussion boards in Canvas are good. Much, much better, I think, than Blackboard for group projects. Zoom, as I mentioned before, it's a video conferencing software. It's free. You can use your OTC credentials, so you're not having to give out your Gmail address if you're using a Google Hangout. You're not having to give out your Skype address if you use Skype. It's all sort of self-contained within your OTC ID, which is great. Google Docs. I like Google Docs. Dropbox is also one that students have used this semester. I like Google Docs just because it's free, it's easy. That's what I did the PowerPoint in. It's what I've got the electronic documents in. Easy to share stuff. You can track when students make changes. It's pretty awesome. Others, things like OTC email. I mentioned the groups that use texting to communicate with each other. I'm okay with that. If that's how they want to communicate, then okay. I don't let them text me, but they can text each other if they want. PowerPoint's Movie Maker, Prezi are some other ones that students have used in the past for little collaborative stuff. Okay. Any questions? Yes, Dave.
Okay, so I was waiting to see if you were going to address it.
Yes.
Okay, on this,
Yes.
what say do you have? So let's say everybody's going to play nice, and hey, we'll give everybody 10 points.
Yes.
But then the paper sucks.
Yes. That's excellent. That's okay. So I anticipate that happening actually with this group that gave everybody 10 points. That's all right. Let's say out of the 500 points, the group gets, I don't know, we'll say 350, being generous, right? Well then, that's everybody's grade.
Okay, and so that's your assignment.
That is my part of this, yes.
Okay,
My
so-
part is grading the final product, students' part is grading each other.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so,
Yeah. So they're invested in, we better make this good,
right,
so we can get as many points as possible, because if I get a 6,
right.
and I get 60% of 350, I've definitely just bombed the class.
So
Yeah.
you always have the final say.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay. And this happened, in my intro class, I used this group grading screen. I had to do a group presentation, and that actually happened exactly like that. They gave each other all 10s, but the presentation was awful. So, one of them kind of was like, well, I don't understand why I got such a bad grade, and I had to go through all this again. And I said, I graded you on this, which is lovely, but that was not quality. It's good that you guys all worked together great, but what you gave me was not good. Yeah.
And you'd be surprised, we do a very similar thing, although I'm gonna add a bunch of this now to qualify ours, but they rat each other out like you can't believe they will. I mean,
Yeah.
and when they self-evaluate, they're really hard on themselves.
They are, that's one thing I
And so
noticed, yeah.
we really learn a lot for our because we're required to give all these recommendations for the program to Allied Health, and that's how we do it. And so when we do group work, it's all peer eval,
Mhm.
and I mean, we find out who's cheating. They'll rat out the cheaters like
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't believe.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
it's
And,
good.
and you are right, John. They'll grade themselves lower most of the time than they will grade others in the group. It's the most fascinating.
It is, they're very honest
Yeah.
with what's going on, for the most part. I mean, I've had a couple of groups that have given a 10, and they were good groups, but, but I always have the ability to go in
Yeah.
and say, I will adjust your grade based on.
Yeah. And I noted this semester, if a student was going to give somebody a 6, I say an 8 or below, they had to tell me why. So again, we get into the.
Yeah, and see, they have to give explanations for why they're giving that grade. Because I have, in one instance, I think in like the last 8 years, I've gone in and changed the grade because the group picked on this one person, and I knew it from the get-go. And it was I'm not gonna get into it, but it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I went in and changed it. That's happened once in like 8 years.
Yeah, and this is the backup for your group summaries, your progress reports that you've gone. So if somebody does get a 6 and you see that they were absent from all of their group meetings, okay, they probably deserve that 6. Yeah, good.
I got 2 questions.
Okay.
One's logistical.
Okay.
How do you assess this? Do you give them a paper for a class? How do they
Yes.
register that? Online or?
Everything is
class?
online in my class.
Okay.
Both my seated and online classes, everything is online. I don't do paper in my classrooms unless it's literally the last possible option.
So my concern would be if you have a group of 4 for certain underachieving classes and only 2 bother to fill out the online whatever,
Yes.
what do you do in those
Think,
circumstances?
you may have been not been here, Misty asked that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, you're fine. So if a student didn't fill out the very first step, the roles and responsibilities, I assign it to them.
Mhm.
Because my assumption is if you don't care enough to fill it out, you don't care what role you have. So I stick them wherever I need a person. That's what I do.
And they've all filled out this, you haven't had an issue with anybody not doing this last piece?
No,
Okay.
none. Mm-mm. Yeah, they are very into grading each other, doing good peer review. Yeah. Yeah. And then this one, I also, you asked a question about points. I don't make this worth points either. I put it in Canvas as like an assignment. It's a W assignment, so
Uh-huh.
0 points, but they have done it.
Do you just, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, do you just do that like a file submission, or are you embedding like some kind of Google form, or?
It's a file submission
Okay.
for this semester.
Okay.
I thought about doing a Google form. Just
Uh-huh.
thought I'd try it this way first.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, there's a couple other things which I recently learned. Every one of you already has a Google Docs account at OTC, if you didn't know that. So, I have 2 separate ones, but you do have an OTC Google Docs account.
Yeah.
form, what I've done is I've made it all electronic, and it comes to me and it compiles all the
Yes.
information. So if you're doing research, which
Yeah.
I do some, is that all of that data comes into a spreadsheet for you. You can sort it, and
Yes.
you can do all kinds of information.
This
So it's
semester, I
good.
made it a test.
Yeah.
A test in Canvas and had them fill it out. And I set it up one way in my online class and a different way in my seated class. And the way I had it set up in my online class was way better. So I'm gonna do it that way from now on. But that's how I did it, because it compiles everything together and everything works
So you
out.
did it as a test. Do you do a Google form?
Yeah, because that
Okay.
way, because I used to
Yeah.
hand tabulate it
Yeah.
until I figured out Google Docs,
Yeah.
and then it does it for you, so why not? I mean, it makes it,
Yeah, I need to come see you about that because I was kind of wondering.
yeah, it makes the,
Okay, that it- okay.
makes the data so much easier
Yeah.
to manipulate.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Pops it in the Excel sheet, basically. It's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
goes into it.
And then you just get feedback like on the rubric and Canvas, is that kind of how you're, okay.
Good. Good, yeah.
How does this translate? You mentioned like study groups.
So with
in
this,
that format.
yes, with this, you can easily just cut out the grading piece and the charter almost. If you can, you might be able to cut out the charter, but basically it's just cutting out the grading piece. Because if you have study groups, you basically could take, each person is assigned a role in either a section of the chapter or as a role as defined here on the sheet. So it's kind of, depends on the class, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you're just eliminating the study or the grading part of it. Yeah, could work for that. Good. Any other thoughts? Questions?
You probably have this in here, but
Okay.
like if they're, well, I do worksheets instead of like on, but I have them each turn in like the identical one. Do you do that or do you just have one submission per group?
Excellent question.
And you probably have it in here, I just
I
haven't.
don't.
Okay.
Through the semester, I have each student turn in, so let's say they're doing their hypothesis statements for their paper.
Okay.
Each person in the class turns in a hypothesis statement. I don't
Okay.
care if it's exactly duplicate to somebody else's, if it's in their group, I don't care. But every person has to turn it in, right?
Uh-huh.
And then at the end of the semester, they all take their stuff and my feedback that each of them have gotten
Uh-huh.
and then smush it together, so each group turns in one hypothesis statement.
Okay.
So as the semester goes, they're all giving individual feedback as far as, did you actually learn this, or did you not actually learn this? And at the end of the semester, it's taking my feedback, the best of the best, smushing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's worked out okay too.
Okay.
So I think that's probably the thing that students are most confused about in my class, is probably the turning in one project for a group. Not everybody turns in the same thing.
Right, that's a challenge to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah. That's what I'm gonna
And it makes grading so much easier.
It does.
'Cause we have like 6 tables in our lab, and they all turn in a group lab report,
Uh-huh.
because we're doing it this way, so I'm grading 6 lab reports instead of 24.
Yeah,
It's
oh my
awesome.
goodness, that does
Yeah.
help.
Well, and it was funny because before I went to this conference, I've been teaching the class for, I don't know, 5 years maybe, and you'd always see students obviously working together. They turn in papers that were eerily similar. It's like, all right, fine, but I didn't really want to count them off for collaboration because it's not a totally bad thing, especially if they're working on the same kind of research question. And so when I went to this conference, I was like, oh my gosh, I figured out a way to finally get this to be structured. Yay! I was so excited. So excited. Yeah. And speaking of grading, shameless plug, Marcia. I've asked Marcia to put me on the fall PD schedule for another session that I went to at the same conference over grading and how to increase your efficiency on grading. And I'm not very sensationalist, but I will say it has revolutionized the way that I grade my classes. It's
Yeah.
taken me down from about 30 hours a week of grading to 5.
Oh my
You just
goodness.
go right into that.
It is revolutionary. If you want to hear about it, come see me in my office. We'll talk about it. But it is
Oh my goodness. yes.
amazing, and students love it, which I didn't think they would like it. They love it. It's crazy. Yes, go ahead.
Librarian here, I'm just curious how you
Yeah.
teach sources and evaluating sources, and if that
Oh,
seems
yeah.
to be working. Because that's one way we can help out, obviously, the library is with our
Yes.
databases.
Actually, I have Sarah come, last 2 semesters, I've had Sarah come and do a talk from, about the library. library, the databases. The databases find scholarly articles related to their topic, and I give them questions, so things like, do kids from half-day kindergarten versus full-day kindergarten have a higher high school GPA? Stuff like that. So I gotta go into the databases, find articles, evaluate them, do they relate to my question, how do they relate to my question, integrate them some way into a literature review. So it's pretty effective. And outside of that, I have them do, find an article that's a longitudinal study, find an article that's a case study. So they have to find the specific types of articles and then evaluate them. So that's how. Yeah.
Have you had like any specific challenges like on online or anything special or different or advice you give? I know not everybody's online, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, you're
Yes,
good.
well, maybe somebody watching is online. Oops.
Honestly, the online has gone better than the seated.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think because the online don't have that structure, they don't mind texting with each other. Or they don't mind meeting, via Google Hangouts. The in-class people, it almost seems like they're very resistant to that. Meet outside of class, what do you need? Kind of stuff. So the group work in the online has worked out actually a lot better.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So my online class is bigger, so that's been good for me. So my seated class in the fall, I'm trying to rethink ways to get the seated more up to that level. Other than that, step one is a challenge, just getting it set up, and then just reminding them of the progress reports. And that could be just an announcement. Hey guys, just a reminder, progress reports are due. Your note taker needs to get those to me. But other than that, and I haven't even had any issues with that. There was 1 week where I forgot to post a reminder, and 2 with the 5 groups sent it to me anyway. So, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to ask for that.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been really, really good.
That's good.
Yeah. Other than that, good. Excellent.
This is really good information.
Yeah.
It's helpful. I know I've kind of struggled with it, with online. I mean, you tried the best, but you just have people who just can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, super tough. Yeah, and that conference, I'll do that one in the fall about the grading. But seriously, like my mind was blown whenever I went to that session. And then I'll do probably a couple other reports on some other sessions I went to. They were also really good. Just things about like group projects. And the whole conference was stuff like this. Here's my handouts that I gave my students. Take them and go do what you want. The whole conference was like that. It was awesome. Really, really cool. So, of course, it's psychology focused, but this is not psychology focused. You could take this and apply it to anything. The example I gave you was psychology focused, but really any kind of group work. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna hang out. If you guys have any questions, we can chat. I'm gonna chat about my grading method. I'll chat about that with you if you want.